So what's being looked for is has nothing to do with you. You as a person, you feel that if we go on the premise that we accept that people are looking for something, searching for something, you would feel that what you're looking for has something to do with the way you are, because that's just a natural sense that you would have, that you need to be more of something and less of something else in very simplistic terms. And that's a very deep feeling you have. It's the key to it is the way you are, and you finding something or ridding yourself of something or so on. So it's all, and the amazing realization is it has nothing to do with you, because there is no you. There never has been. It's simple. The sense of being a you is a story. It's a simulation, a fabrication, whatever word you want to use. It's artificial. It feels absolutely real, and it's actually simply a story. It's an information processing loop which has you living in the known and living as a really felt separate person who is in the real, living in the real and seeing objects to your subject. And this is dissatisfactory on some in some way or in some at some level to the person, um, not to the individual. The individual is just being an individual, but there's a yearning in that, and the yearning is not for is to see actually that there's nothing, that everything is nothing. So what's yearned for then is already simply whatever's appearing to happen, which is a massive surprise to the person, because their whole energy of being a person is moving forward, always moving forward. And in the story, the narrative, the whole narrative of life and how life is and things happening, if you pay attention to it, it's always about moving things forward, the next best thing, the thing that's around the corner. It's always that energy of moving in a linear path forward into the future. And what's being shared here is that that's artificial. That actually there is no forward or back or future or past or now or present or anything. That's all a story. There's simply energy, which is boundless, unknowable, unconditional love, and that's all there ever has been. It's just simply what appears to be. So we'll see. There's a question there, just there to be asked. There's no right or wrong with this, and it's all concerned with a resonance. It's not to do with understanding anything.
Yeah, hello, Kenneth.
Hello, Mark.
Yeah, hi. My name's Mark. I'm from Australia.
Yeah, hi, Mark.
Yeah,
Your
yeah. How you
your
doing?
accent gave you away.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was just wondering, in relation to your thoughts, does me have any control over the way you think and how you think?
It's when there's a sense of being an individual, it hijacks all of the processes in the body. So there is a different quality to the individual, the thoughts when they're my thoughts. So they're not just thoughts that arise; they're my thoughts. And the a huge part of the sense of being a person is run from the brain. It's a simulation run from the brain, but there is no brain body divide. But the thoughts have when you're a person, when they're your thoughts, they tend to be um, very well, they're looped in nature, and they just continually feed the narrative of that you're this way or that way. So the different, like a misconception that people would have is that, say, if that sense of being a person isn't there anymore, there just wouldn't be any thinking, or thinking wouldn't happen, or there would only be certain types of thoughts or whatever. And that's not really accurate either. It's that the whole energy of thinking just kind of really quietens down massively.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does that. Yeah, whether it happens immediately or whatever, it doesn't actually matter. But the big scene is really that they're not your thoughts. So
yeah,
when they're not your thoughts, it's the same, and it's indescribably different. It's indescribably different.
yeah,
It being my thought, energetically, is totally and utterly different. And it can a lot of thoughts can bring, um, because they're feeding the narrative, and they can bring a lot of distress. They can bring a lot of different things that simply
mhm,
wouldn't really arise when they're not for anybody. It's just the thought is there, and then it's not there.
yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
that's great.
the
Thank
problem
you.
is in a lot of the spiritual stuff, they identify, like, they focus on thoughts, and they say meditation and all of this. Well, you can quieten the mind and there'll be no thinking and all of this.
Yeah.
That's a load of nonsense, really.
Mm,
So what's being shared here is that there's already no body, no separate person. There's just what appears to happen. So thoughts appear to happen, emotions appear to happen, seeing things, all of the senses. But this sense that all of these senses are pouring through a you is artificial. You're not seeing, you're not thinking, you're not feeling, you're not smelling, you're not touching. There's only that appears.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if it may do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
You there, Kenneth?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering. It seems that with the me, fear is all pervasive all the time. You've got this underlying current of fear, and
Mm.
so on. Without the me, when it falls away, does that lessen? Do you find that that tends to go away a bit?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Like there's
Yeah.
there's um there is a huge agitation with being a person, and there's a huge anxiety in the sense of what's going to happen and what's going to happen to me. Um, and increasingly so in modern life, there's a pervasive anxiety and fear about um, I think I was Richard Sylvester. I was at a spoke at a thing that he spoke at years and years ago, and he said, "Oh, actually, I didn't hear him. I heard him in the video the next week." But I thought he said it lovely. He said, "Most people are trying to." He expressed it really well. He said, "Most people are trying to get from one end of the day to the other without getting hit by a bus. They're
Yeah.
trying to survive really, and
Mm.
that's really the extent of it, and the trouble is that in the story there's this narrative that there's this perception that everyone is kind of quite happy actually and accomplished, and you're the only one who feels like this,
Yeah.
or maybe some other people, but generally people are really happy because, of course, it's like the T.S. Eliot poem, with the face to meet the faces that we meet. Do you know what I mean? So there's this kind of story that's put out for other people that I'm good, everything is good, and then there's an internal kind of landscape in which there's agitation and so on. Now there is no internal landscape either, just to be clear. It feels like that for the person because it feels like there's an outer and an inner, and it feels like there's a
Mm.
me that things are really happening to. Um,
Mm.
so when there's no longer a sense of being a person, you see, this is the problem. Then it's completely indescribable. It's not possible to describe it. It's
Yeah.
so ridiculously ordinary because there's just birds singing. There's a sitting on a seat. There's a voice. There's an Australian
Mm.
accent. There's screens. There's just simply what appears to be happening, and anxiety may or may not arise in that, but it would not be a problem then because it would not
Mm.
be my anxiety because I'm not there to own it or have it.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm saying that is when people hear this, they very much, because they are that dichotomous kind of thinking, that duality of good and bad and comfortable, uncomfortable, and they hear this as a kind of panacea to that sense of anxiety, and they say, well, if I fall away there'll be no anxiety, if I fall away there won't be fear, because all they can imagine is some kind of state. Then that's totally
Mm.
understandable because that's the person has to work with. They're imagining, they feel they're in a state, they have experiences, so they imagine another experience when this is shared by somebody. And it's not an experience or a state, it's indescribable.
Yeah.
And yet it's completely ordinary and anything can happen. But
Yeah.
but uh, but a kind of prolonged anxiety is going to just um, I would say collapse with the person largely. And there may
Mm.
be some, and it may be, it's just hard to tell. You can't really describe what it could, because it could really be anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
but largely that sense of, yeah, there's a person, something bad is going to happen to me, so on.
Yeah. It's that sort of neurotic sense, isn't it, that
Yeah,
goes on with being a person,
neurotic.
and
Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. It is. There's a neurosis. There's a complete neurosis with feeling like a person. It's
yeah.
it's it's off the scales with some people. I mean, like it's absolutely into outer fucking space. The neurosis of how am I, and how do I appear to you? And
Mm.
this whole circus we're living in, is like, look at me here and look at me there, and this is me, and this is the way people need to like this, and people need to, or I'm joking around, but also, and my career, people need to respect me, people need to see that my authority, people need to know that I'm successful, people need to, it's just utter bullshit. It's complete and utter circus.
Absolutely.
That when it's seen, it's just so obvious that it's all a circus. But then when it's not, it's completely engrossing to the person and feels absolutely real. And because I feel absolutely real. Um, yeah.
Yeah, with that feeling of realness, you're scared of losing that as well. So
Mm.
there's a paradox there, isn't there? You know, you live with this constant state of anxiety, but then you're scared of losing it as well. You know,
Oh,
with your
totally. Yeah, because it's feeding who you are. So what if you lose it? Who am I? And
yeah,
the invitation is always there to see you're not anything. You're not anything at all. That it's totally terrifying to the person. Like what's
mm,
being suggested here to some people is absolutely terrifying. It is so
mm,
so so scary to them. Like it's the end of them. It's death. This is complete death because
yeah,
it's their absence. It's the suggestion that they're actually there. So some people this is so confronting, and the incredible paradox is actually what's being yearned for is your own absence. Actually,
yeah,
because actually what's being yearned for is there just to simply be what's appearing to happen. Just
mm,
nothing is being yearned for, and what you're most afraid of is there being nothing, because
yeah,
that sense of a person is just a loop of there being a me, and it's so terrifying that for that energetic sense of a me that it would all be artificial.
it's
So it
amazing. Sorry, if
no, you go on.
you have the drama, you know, you've got this drama happening all the time, and if it's not happening, you invent it. You know,
Totally and utterly invented. Yeah, that's the exact. It's all invented.
you have to find something to worry about. It's
Oh, completely.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was in one of the roles I was in for years was as a social worker, and I worked with a lot of people who did heroin and very hard
Yeah.
drugs, and
Mm,
a lot of them got off the heroin, and then
mm,
that was no longer a problem. So you would imagine then that things would get better, wouldn't you?
you
And
would.
actually, what you saw was the biggest addiction of all, which is me. And
Yeah.
the way you saw that was drama, drama,
Mm,
drama, drama. And one of the
yeah.
reasons that people get dragged back into that is the whole drama of all of that world. There's a huge void when all of that's gone. It's a
Yeah.
massive, massive void. And
Must
all
be.
of
Yeah.
that is at the core of that is that sense of me being comforted and being fed. And the whole thing just continues to.
Yeah.
The me is the biggest addiction going. Like there's nothing compares to it.
I've been listening to you for a while now, and I've had a couple of days or stretches where it seems like there's no self around, sort of thing.
Mm,
Um, it's the emptiness is the emptiness of it is frightening. You know,
yeah,
that feeling of the emptiness. You want to fill it up all the time, sort of thing.
yeah. And
Yeah.
what's happening there then is that this what's being suggested is resonating, and it
Mm,
can be seen that there's just what's appearing to happen, but what still feels like you, whatever is still feeling like you, wants
yeah.
desperately to fill up the emptiness. Because
Yeah.
if there is truly only emptiness, there's no room for you in it.
Yeah.
So that's that scramble to survive. And that's that confronting. Like if this is really heard, can be very, very confronting. And
Yeah.
and then it's that way till it isn't.
Yeah.
Because when there's just nothing, when everything is seen to be absolutely empty, there is only the void, and
Mm,
everything is lost, then boom, there is only nothing, and nothing is everything. So it's game over then. There's
it's
there's no
poverty.
there's nobody left to try and fill in the hole, to try
Yeah.
and fill that void, and nobody to be unnerved by it.
It's like extreme poverty, isn't it? It's
It's absolute poverty. Like
yeah.
the person thinks that what they're looking for involves them getting something, knowing
Yeah.
something, losing something, getting something, being in a state, having an experience, whatever. It's all about, and
Yeah.
actually, It is losing something, but not in the way the person thinks of losing something. It's complete poverty, and it's everything is like all ideologies, beliefs, concepts. There's nothing to hold on to anymore. And then in that, then it's it's just incredibly obvious. It's just suddenly incredibly obvious that there's just what's appearing to happen, and it's absolutely unknowable. It cannot be known. If you think you know it, then it requires you to be there to know it. That's it. And if you know it, you're not seeing it as it actually is. It's
Yeah,
simply an abstraction. That's all it is then, and that is dissatisfying to the yeah.
yeah. Knowing's part of the self, isn't it?
Oh, it's a core part of it. It's
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and meaning and knowing it.
yeah,
They're all the same function. They're all the
yeah,
same function of knitting together the narrative of me, of course,
yeah,
because meaning really is core to it too, because you have to. What sort of fabric will the story have unless there's meaning in it? Because
yeah,
like otherwise there's just so much information being poured through. Which information am I going to put weight on, and which
yeah,
information am I going to pull out and highlight and say, well, that's important to the story of me? And that's what the person is continually doing. And it is as a lot of the more AI guys are saying now, the whole thing is just a simulation. It's just a
yeah,
story. That's all it is.
yeah.
Yeah, and everything is an aspect of that. Then, like all of that, that's why in this communication, it's always going to the root of that. It's always illuminating that, and is no interest in kind of going through, free will, time, all the different causality. But they come up. They're like, because people ask about them, but they're just aspects of a feeling like a separate person.
It's amazing.
And consciousness and awareness and all of that are simply within the simulation, and are an aspect of the function of knowing. That's all they are.
Yeah, it really sucks you in, doesn't it?
Oh, this sucks you in, as in the being a person, like the story of
Yeah,
me. Oh, it's all consuming. It's all there is. Like for the person, it's completely, it's absolute lunatic. What I'm suggesting here to the person is complete and utter madness. It's just this, that is, and it's not an idea to be a person. It's not
mm,
that there's a you there being sucked in. It's just that energetically there's this lived feeling of being in the body and looking out
mm,
on the world. And it's my body, and there's life, and there's my life. I definitely have a life. And if I
yeah,
have a life, I can do something with it. And then all of the messages I hear is how this is how you can use it. This is how you can do something about it. This is how you can benefit other people. This is how you can, and all of that.
mm,
There's not any suggestion that any of that is any in some way wrong, because it's not. Of course, it isn't. It's just what appears to happen. But this communication, which is nothing to do with Kenneth, it's just from nothing, is another possibility. It's another way that this can be seen that doesn't speak to that energy of being a separate self, because there clearly isn't anybody to speak to. And then,
yeah,
therefore, this is boundless. This is
mm,
completely unknowable and boundless. And then it resonates,
yeah, it does.
you
Thanks
know,
very much.
or it doesn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth,
Hiya.
hello.
Oh, Kim, hi. Waiting patiently as Kenneth gazes out the window.
Again,
Yeah.
it is really spot on what you are apparently talking about. I was just wondering, uh, can you say something about loneliness? Um, um, it must be a story
Yeah, it's a
to
part of feeling like a person. You have to feel like a person to feel lonely.
yeah,
Because you feel like there are others and there's you, and then you're lonely in that bubble of me.
yeah,
When there's no you, there's oneness. There's not two. So there's not two. So there's just what appears to be, which is in loveness with whatever is appearing to arise.
yeah. Uh, I ask because I work with the you can see for the society about this loneliness, and uh, it is seen as a problem that people are lonely, and therefore there is this helping system in different ways where you can phone to someone and so on, and it's just this when a person feels really this loneliness, it can be uh, yeah. If you should talk a little bit this
Yeah, I
method
mean
into it,
it would just be what's appearing to happen.
yeah,
Everything is just as it is. It's just what appears to happen. And I mean, also, like, you could also say loneliness is real and unreal because it's something that appears in the story. So the addressing of loneliness is also just something that appears in the story. So that's fine. Elderly people who are isolated and some sort of effort to connect with them, that's just what appears to happen.
yeah,
Within the story. It doesn't have any meaning or significance. It doesn't mean that it's somehow the person would hear it then and thinks, oh, so what you're suggesting is leave all those people alone and don't go near them because loneliness is good. And it's like, that's
no,
not what I said.
no,
I
no,
said
no,
loneliness appears to happen, and people reaching out appears to happen. That's what appears to happen in the story.
yeah,
And wired into the very our very genes is a sense of interacting with others. The human body will not survive isolated. We see that in babies. They've seen babies who had no interaction, and the infant mortality rate just being very high, as opposed to ones who had skin on skin contact. All of these experiments that have been done are people who've tried to live in isolation without. It doesn't work. So it's just in our makeup, some sort of uh, connection or interaction. But what's being suggested here is actually that's just that's what appears to be in the story. But there are no separate entities that interact. Actually, there's just energy which appears as a person. And
okay,
the other thing is that, like, if you say loneliness or whatever, there's a whatever is appearing to happen. If you feel like a person, whatever is appearing to happen, that is the invitation, you could say, to see that there's no you. So if there's terrible loneliness, it's already that. Then it's already that. Whereas the person feels always that it's the resolution of this and the ending of this, and it'll be something else that's around the next corner. Always. It can't just be that there's loneliness appearing. It can't be the loneliness. That's not possible. It has to be the resolution of it.
yeah,
Whereas actually, just loneliness is what's appearing. It's the same as discomfort or pain or anything.
yeah,
It's just what appears to happen. But when you feel it's happening to you, then there's that filter of you that it has to be one way or the other. And that this isn't quite it then, because it needs to be not that and it needs to be this. So then
yeah,
that's the whole thing, just continues to go around like that.
yeah. Thank you, Kenneth.
Thanks, Kim. Yeah, and all of those things, like helping appears in the story. It doesn't have any, it's not bad or good or right or wrong. Where it gets interesting is the person thinks that they're a helper. They think that there's a victim and there's a helper, and it's all part of the story then. Instead of fear of being nothing, can there be fear of being someone or something? Yes, absolutely. So it's actually the same thing.
What is the same thing? Can you elaborate?
The fear of, someone said, is the fear of being something. Can there also, we were talking earlier about the fear the person has of nothing, of the void, of, because they're being something all the time. I am something, I'm living in the real. And someone said, can there also be a fear of being some, as well as a fear of nothing? Can there be a fear of something, of being a person? And of course, yeah, it's because you see, something and nothing aren't two different things. Because something and nothing is something, and something is nothing. The person, when we imagine no thing or the void or whatever, people make something of nothing, and it's not like that. It's the same as life and death. People think there's a thing called life that they have, and there's another thing called death, and there isn't at all. There's not death or life. This is the dualism that the person is, the duality. There's simply energy, which is nothing being everything, which then is beyond understanding, completely and utterly, totally beyond understanding.
Kenneth, can I speak
Oh, yeah.
open with you?
Yeah?
Yeah, so this morning I was apparently, or however you want to put it, I was suffering quite intensely. And and I was like, it's like I somehow realized that somehow my own head or brain or mind is like a painful movement in itself. And when I was starting to listening here today, I realized, or it's somehow I can see how the mind is like it's like this neurotic circle of wanting to know, and I can't stop it. It's like an addiction in itself, which perpetuates the suffering to some degree. Yeah.
You're not there to stop it. Because if you think you can stop it, that means that you are a real person in there who has control, and that you can stop this loop of thought. And you will find any amount of messages, communications, whatever, teachings that will tell you absolutely can stop it, and they will tell you how to stop it. And they're very seductive then, because I want to be fed, and I want to be confirmed that I am here and I can stop something. So then that's what people do. It's very logical and seductive to the person. And then there's this communication, which is nobody's, which is illuminating that you're not there to stop or start anything, and there's just what appears to happen. And it just can be seen that there's just a loop. There's just that sense of being a person is empty. And the really lived sense of that will continue, apparently, until it doesn't. And that's the really it's very frustrating then, because it's so frustrating for the person, because they kind of resonate with what's been said, but then they still want to be there to be able to stop the loop of me.
Crazy. Yeah.
So it's very simple. Like, I cannot convey how simple what's being suggested here is. It's so ordinary and simple that it's always overlooked then, because the person wants complex, difficult prescription. It wants it to be that. It wants it to be spoken to by somebody who's telling them, giving them real dense, complex information about how they are, and how giving them a complex path about how they can get out of that. That is just, they're sorted then. That is so lovely for the person. Yeah. But this is just useless. It's completely useless for the person. It is so useless. It's like, it's so frustrating. So there's just me. Yeah, but what the fuck am I supposed to do with that? Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, the person really just does not like this communication. Of course it does. And this is the illumination that there is no person. The person's a story. The person's not going to be too happy with that. No. And it's going to want a message, or yearn for a message that tells them that they are a person and there is something they can do.
Yeah.
It's very ordinary. It's just that there's just what's appearing to happen. Any idea someone has about what's being shared here is just an idea. It's beyond any concept, and it's utterly ordinary and obvious. It's too obvious. It's just, there's a flower there and a bee just visited it. She's gone to another flower now. There's the wind is slightly stirring the leaves ever so slightly. There's a sound of traffic, and then there's a computer screen here. There's a chair. There's sound of voices. It's very ordinary, and there's no me in the whole thing. There's no me there and anyone who's listening, and there never ever has been. There never ever has been. There never has been a you. It's all there. Really felt that there's a you. It absolutely feels real, and it's just a story. And so what you're yearning for, what's actually being yearned for, cannot be escaped from. Actually, it can't be obtained because it's not obtainable. It's not something that can be attained, a state, an experience, anything like that, and it cannot be escaped from because it's simply already all that appears to be.
So that means that also my mind having its own, I don't know, like there is this thing in my brain which always wants to be right, and it's so shitty, but it's like,
but you're a woman, so that's never going to go away. Oh, dangerous territory, Kenneth. Back away. All the men are going, oh fuck, he didn't say that, did he?
I can take it.
You can take it, Laura. That's why I said it. I know. It's so funny these days, though. People have got so prickly and sensitive, and anyway,
prickly?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Prickly
Sensitive.
Is like,
yes.
Everyone is
yes.
so funny. Like, everyone is so careful now what they say, especially people in the public limelight, and they're saying stuff, and then what they'll do is, and I don't want it to appear that what I'm saying is this. Because what I'm saying is this, and then it starts getting really boring because they're continually clarifying, and and I'm saying this, and what I'm saying is that this, and I'm not suggesting now that people go out and do this now. No. And it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, can you just talk without fucking add the disclaimer every fucking 5 minutes so someone doesn't get offended? You know what I mean? It's like, fuck them, let them get offended. Who cares? Fucking hell, the way things have gone. But anyway, it's a beautiful play of light, and that's the way it is. I can't remember what we were saying. You were talking about your need to be right as a woman.
Oh,
I'm joking. You were saying that the sense of knowing, you feel that you know.
Oh, it's okay. It's good. Yeah. It's like nice. But I observed that as well. That this is like somehow it feels a bit as if everyone is walking on eggshells. Or
yeah. It's very it's very polarized. It's very it's all optics, and it's amazing what's appearing to happen. Yeah. And it's cancel culture, like, so it's like, oh well, I don't like what you're saying there, so I'm actually going to ruin you and just totally erase you. And it's also to do, you see, with ideologically the person feels that they know the way life should be and it should be this way, and so anyone who kind of opposes that ideology, it's like people's tolerance has gone way down. So it's like, well, they're wrong, and actually the best thing to do with them is just erase them, just get rid of them, and let's have a world where those people just don't even have a voice. So the best thing we could actually do is to completely eradicate them and not give them any platform to even speak. That would be a really good idea, because we know we're right about everything and they're utterly wrong. And that's what we're seeing play out in the world. And it's this complete polarization. And it's fucking madness. It's utter madness. And I think there is a big backlash against it that we're seeing more and more. Because just common sense and logic and tolerance just left town a long time ago, and people are utterly sick of it, and they're kind of, well, I kind of, increasingly you're hearing people, well, I kind of like to hear different opinions, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you're wrong, but let's kind of, whatever. But yeah, I know it's mad. It's all a play of light. It's all just a play of it's all the story of the apparent individual.
Yeah,
and the story's getting
out.
increasingly neurotic and increasingly just...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and what I recently discovered, so that like this constant, it's like an embodied sense of resistance. It was like I was completely surprised to discover, oh my God, it's like a principle energy of resisting, just to be safe, just resist. It's like amazing. And
we're always, as people, we're always continually rejecting what is in favor of what might be.
Yeah.
So what it is then that's why the person is a hopeful energy. Like if you turn on the news, it's all a hopeful drive into some future imagined place. And that's why the person always feels that what they're looking for is around the next corner. It's when I get better at the guitar, when I get better at running, when I get my diet dialed in, when I get that promotion in work, it's always some distant place. And that's that drive. And there's a really strong feeling that if that wasn't there, actually things would just melt into a soup of utter shit. Like you can't, and I've seen some videos lately actually that just popped up, and they're basically saying, no, you are not, don't be complacent, don't be just happy with what's appearing to happen. That's death. That's absolute death. No, never be happy with what's happening. Never, because that means you won't evolve. That means you won't, you know what I mean? And so this is what you hear a lot, and it's just that constant striving for what might be in favor of what is. Over what is, do you know what I mean? So that's it can never just be like, it can never just be, oh, I feel shit today. For some reason I don't know why I feel shit. I have no idea. I've absolutely no idea, but that's what's happening. It's a shit feeling today. And then and it's just like as it's like, okay, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. It's just a shit feeling. It's there, and then it's there until it's not there. No. That's not okay. We got to understand the shit feeling. Where did it originate? Is it from the relationship with your mother or your father or your microbiome? It's probably a combination of eating too much sugar and your mum having hit you when you were 6 for stealing from the cookie jar. Which probably also affected your microbiome, so you could blame it all on them for giving you a bad diet. So therefore it just goes on and on. It can't be that there's just it's not never enough for the person.
Yeah. It's and then I stop, Kim. And there is also like when I meet up with friends recently, I realize like, or yeah, so it's like it's not just enough to just, for example, sit there, look at the birds, sense the sitting. It's like at one point you can, it's like always about I stories, I did that, I will do this, I will have that problem, I and I'm like, it's like, wow, it's like, wow, it's a like motor mouthing, and at one point I feel like, oh, look at this bird there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you can really see the irritation going on, like,
oh yeah, that's there's a discomfort with that would arise in people. When in the story, there was this kind of scene of a scene of all of this, and Kenneth, the character, started going to spiritual groups, right, for about a year, not even a year, but one of the first ones I went to, people were talking about enlightenment and all of this stuff, and this was when I still would have felt maybe like Kenneth or whatever, but it was very obvious. All of this stuff was so obvious that there was, and I just said, yeah, and see that if you just look out the window there, the wind is just stirring the leaf. See the way it's just moving that leaf there, and people just looked at me like,
yeah, what are you?
This new guy, he just hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue. He has so much to learn about enlightenment and how, levels, but and you get this kind of patronizing kind of, okay, and then gradually you kind of sense that you're not really welcome back. After a few weeks, it's like, oh, he's not really fitting in. He's okay, like, but yeah, maybe skip the next meeting there, Kenneth. But it's just so all artificial. Everyone wants their story to be fed. So I'm just simply picking that example because that example was we're all there to feed the story that there's somewhere to get to through meditation, through this. And we will talk about examples of people who are enlightened and they will show us the way and all that. Yeah. And if you're not feeding that, then in the same way that if you're sitting with your friends and they're talking about, the Johnny Depp trial, and they want you to have an opinion on it, and if you don't and you say, oh, look at the leaves, isn't that lovely, you're like, oh, okay, I think Laura's she's not very well in herself, so because it's all about the story has to be fed.
Lovely to chat.
Nice to speak to you.
Okay, thanks.
Here we go. Thanks, guys. Really lovely to chat to you. Obviously been cancelling a lot of meetings lately, and if I told you why, it would all be a big story. Because there's not even a
we would
meeting
all be very keen to hear. I'm sure about this.
I know. And then it would be like, oh, that's the reason. I thought it would be something a little bit more dramatic. So listen, there will be one tonight, unless it's cancelled at the very last minute, and that's what will appear to happen. But yeah, there'll be an email in the next probably week or two, and this time I actually will be setting out all the meetings for the rest of the year and into next year. So the good thing is there will be actually more apparent time, and I'll be able to get my shit together and put that out for people, because I know a lot of people email and they're like, when's this, when's that, when's the next one, and it's frustrating because it's not been laid out clearly on the website, but that will change apparently. There you go. Thanks, guys. Lovely to speak to you.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Bye.
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 Bye, Kenneth.
Bye.